Good morning. Thank you for tuning into this slow flow vinyasa video recording. And this class is going to focus on working into the hips. And we're going to kind of start really slow, open up the body a little bit, work into some sun and moon salutations to get our body warm. And then we'll do some seated poses so we can really ground and get focused for the day. So for props, you'll want to have 2 yoga blocks and something cushy to kneel on, which could be a pad or a folded blanket. And we'll get started doing some lunges on the mat. This blanket is here, so I'll go ahead and have that be my kneeling surface. And it's even on top of this pad that I already have on my mat is extra cushion. The knees are simple joints, and we want to make sure we're always taking care of them. And I have a couple blocks towards the top of my mat, which I'll use once I come into my lunge. But I'm going to start from this kneeling stand. And then I'm going to bring the right foot to step forward to the top of the mat. Now, when I start, I'm in this high lunge, or we sometimes call it the 90-90 lunge. We have a 90-degree at the front of the leg, and then we have a 90-degree at the back leg too. And this is just a way to kind of slowly work in to what we're feeling. How open is the body? And before we go to depth, we're going to create strength. So for 3 breaths, we're going to kind of hug in the hips, push down with the feet, contract the muscles with the legs. And then for 3 breaths, we'll kind of soften. You'll soften into it a little bit. See if that kind of contraction and release allowed you to lunge forward, coming out of your 90-90 with the back leg. So this back hip coming forward of the back knee. And you'll just want to scoot your front foot forward if the knee is coming forward of that toe. And then same thing, we found our new position. So arms can reach down. That can help to open up across the chest too. And we do the contraction for 3 breaths, the glutes, the hips, the core, the legs, the feet rooting down. Right, it's like squeezing it, wringing it out, and then we soften and see if the hips can go forward anymore. And we'll do that one more time. Feel lots of contraction, muscles squeezing, and then sink. And then we'll bring the hands to blocks and we'll bow the torso. Hands could go on either side of the foot if that's okay. They could both go in if not. And now in this hopefully deeper low lunge than where we started, we'll take some belly breath, which helps to send some space down into the hips. And then we come out of our deep lunge and we go back to our 90-90. Walk that front foot back if you need to. And then the right knee comes back to the kneeling stand and we are at where we started. And just, notice what you're feeling after you did that stretch. When you're ready, the left foot will come forward. We find that 90-90. Arms can reach down and we focus on contraction and the core, the hips, and the lower body. And then we let the hips soften forward. You don't have to push, just notice if when we let go of the musculature, we're able to sink forward a little bit. Find that new spot, and then again, contract for 3 breaths. And then soften, walking the front foot forward if you need to. And we'll do one more engagement. Feet rooting down. And then sink forward if you go any further at all. Maybe not, that's okay. And then the hands will come down to blocks on any height to support where you are. And we'll take 5 rounds of really big belly breath, using the direction of the breath into the front of the hips to do a little bit more work in that hip flexor, quadricep, lower abdomen area. And then back we go to our 90-90. And then the back foot will come back into our kneeling stand. I'll clear my mat of the blocks and we'll warm up the shoulders a little bit. I'll bring the hands down so that I'm in tabletop, still using that kneeling. And then the right arm will thread under the left. I'll keep the hips over the knees, so not sending them back like child's pose, but coming into this twisting upper body pose. Threading our needle, right palms facing up. We want the head to be comfortably down. If it's not reaching the mat, or the shoulder is not reaching the mat, you can go ahead and put a blanket underneath your shoulder and a block underneath your head. And then the left arm creeps forward, the fingertips tend towards the top of the mat. And that left arm straightens as you send the left hip back in space. When you've had 5 breaths or so, the left palm can press into the mat alongside the head as you unthread the right arm. Coming back to table, and then we'll do that to the other side. The left arm threads under, palm faces up, finding a spot to rest the head and the shoulder, and the right fingers creep forward, tempted, right arm straight, sending the right hip back. Right palm presses down and you can unthread, returning to your table. And then we'll walk the hands a little bit forward of the knees. So in our tabletop, we have the hips right over the knees. We have that 90-degree alignment with our knee. We're going to walk our hands forward so that our hips come forward of our knees. And we want our bottom to be right in line with our core. So not sinking it so that we're back bending. And then the toes will tuck. Reach the heart forward, let the chin come off the chest and tuck the toes under. And imagine that you're just lifting, say, 20% of the weight out of the knees so that the knees are still down, but the core starts to engage as if we were going to come into a plank. We're not going to come into a full plank, but this modified plank here to start waking up our core. And then take a deep breath in, feel the belly expand. And then as you exhale, feel your core muscles pulling back towards the spine. Feel the lower ribs pulling back towards the spine to the spine at the same time, keeping the chest forward. Now the elbows will bend back as we lower down. Maybe like me, you need to move that pad. And we'll take some cobras. Tops of toes are untucked, so the tops of the feet are pressing down, and the hands and the fingers are about in line with the top of your chest, nice and wide. Now the palms press down and pull back as if you're trying to slide yourself forward, right? Reaching to the wall in front of you. I think of a ship and the mast of the ship reaching forward. Really strong legs, and not so much of it as a push-up. My chest is just slightly lifted. The hands are pressing down and pulling back. It's almost more of a drawing forward motion. And can you feel the muscles in your arms and your shoulders working, your neck lengthening? Lots of space between your shoulders and your ears. And you float your hands slightly off the ground. How about your feet? And then we'll rest in baby crocodile. Let the knees bend and the feet lift, and you can take the feet side to side. We'll do our windshield wipers. And then the lights will come down. The hands can scoot down along your side ribs, pressing into the mat. We'll return to table, and then we'll come into our child's pose. Toes touch, and we send the hips back. Reach the arms forward, down dog style, where they're really activated. They're engaged, they're straightening, and the palms are pressing down into the mat. And then from there, rest the head. And from there, we'll come up to table and then grab a block or two to sit on for hero's pose. We'll do some warm up with the shoulder and the chest. Bring the shoulders up, back, and down, moving with your breath, inhaling up, exhaling down. Do 3, going backwards, and then 3, rolling the shoulders back up, forward, down. Okay, take the hands nice and wide, reach through the fingers and lift the heart. Take a few breaths here, stretching the front of the chest. Really work the fingers open. Maybe even flex the palms if you want to go, or flex the wrists if you want a little bit of a deeper sensation. And then relax the arms. All right, we're going to set up for some moon salutations where we're stepping through. So if you'd like, you can use blocks underneath your hands from that. So come into tabletop from your hero's pose, and we'll find dog, tucking the toes, sending the hips up and back. Now remember, the arms are activated. You want the muscles on the arms to be engaged as if the palms were pressing the blocks or the floor away. We're allowing breath to come into our front body as we inhale, but we're allowing the exhale to create strength around our midsection. And the quadriceps are engaged, the knees are soft, the hips are reaching to the back of the mat. Extend the right leg back and up. Hug the outer hips together. Come into your hanging plank as your weight of your torso comes forward. Chest comes right over your fingertips, pulling that right knee in towards your chest. And then stepping the right foot forward to the right thumb. Remember, you can walk the hands back if you need to, so that you have that knee right over your ankle. Go ahead and move your blocks to the highest height. From here, we're going to come into standing leg split. The hands will walk forward of the foot as the left foot reaches up and back. Now the left leg may not go very high, and that's okay, but it should be really strong. So foot is flexed. The quadricep at the front of the thigh of the left leg is really strong. And then we're going to try not to dump into our right hip and our right leg. So this imagination exercise that you're trying to slip a piece of paper in between your right thigh and your right hip, or that the back of your right hip is reaching for the ceiling. Can you reach the heart forward? Let the shoulders come together on your back slightly. And then we'll soften both knees. You can let the left foot come to the ground, right where the right is, and we'll bow our heads coming into our forward fold. Hands could come to blocks, they could hang or to the mat. Strengthening up the legs without locking the knees. Find that balance. Let go of the head and give it a few shakes and nods very gently. Send the hips back, bend the knees greatly. Step through the heels, come up to your mountain, reach high. And then hands by your side, exhale. All right, we'll take a moon salutation, coming all the way back to our down dog. If you're using your blocks, make sure they're in place. Stand tall on your mountain for 3 breaths. On the 4th inhale, reach the arms up. On your exhale, fold in half, come into your forward fold. Place the hands on the blocks, lunge the right leg back, knee down. Both feet pressing down into the mat. Inhale, reach your arms high, look up. And then as you exhale, hands comes to the block, so make our way to our dog. We'll take 3 breaths in dog. Remember your strength and your fluidity of breath. Right leg back and up. Right foot forward, left knee down. Press down with the feet, reach up with the arms. And we'll make our way to our forward fold. Left foot comes to meet the right, and we bow, let go of the head. Send the hips back as you rise, reach tall, and find your mountain pose. 3 more breaths in mountain. Drawing energy up from the earth on your inhale, letting go of tension on your exhale. Next inhale, reach. Next exhale, fold. This time, left leg goes back, knee down. Inhale, reach up. And then we make our way to dog. 3 breaths here. Okay, left leg back and up. We'll be here for a few breaths. Feel the outer hips hugging in. Come into your hanging plank. Left knee comes into the chest, pulling that foot away from the ground, stepping the left foot forward, taking the blocks on the highest height now, coming into our standing leg split on the second side. Hands walk forward of the left leg, right leg is charged and reaching back, foot is flexed, lifting up out of the left hip, out of the left leg, reaching the heart forward, shoulder blades coming together. Soften both knees, bring both feet to the ground as you come into your forward fold. Hands could be supported on blocks or mat, or you can take opposite hand to opposite elbow. Ragdoll variation, maybe some sways side to side. Sink the hips back, bending the knees. Prepare to come up, step through the heels. Feel that strong back chain as you reach up, reach the heart. And then hands by your side, exhale. Okay, go ahead and find your strap. Our long sleeve shirt. We're not going to do something too complicated, but just giving us enough space to open the shoulders. We'll hold something like so behind us so that the hands are reaching back, probably about hip width distance apart. And we'll do the same thing for the legs. Now come into that mountain pose where the gaze is lifted, the body's strong, and we're feeling our connection to the mat. Breathe into your heart. Keeping the elbows soft, maybe the hands lift from your body. Some days not. Some days the chest is just too tight and we don't need to push it. And then from here, we forward fold with the strap. I'll soften the knees, let my chest come towards my thighs as I bow the head and strengthen the legs. And again, the hands could be right close to your bottom if things are feeling tight, or you could experiment with letting your arms reach up towards the sky. Keep the elbows soft. All right, let the strap go. Bring the feet a little bit closer together, your normal forward fold stance. Let's say we'll go for that. And then we're gonna lunge the left foot back. Now stay really strong in this runner's lunge. So back knee is not coming down. Our hands can be to the ground or maybe to blocks. Feel that outer hip hugging in, the core working. Reach the heart forward, reach the gaze forward. Can you feel the shoulder blades come a little bit closer together? Now both hands inside the right leg and walk your hands over to the long edge of your mat. We're going to come into Prasarita, or a wide-legged forward fold. Now the alignment for the feet is either parallel with the short edges of your mat, or you can pigeon toe slightly with the toes coming in. Choose whatever feels better on your hips, your knees. Now come into a little halfway left where you have a micro bend to the knees and you're reaching the hips back. Feel the strength and the stretch here as the heart reaches forward. Now on one of your next exhales, we'll start to bow. Now hands could stay to block so they could come to the mat if it's within reach, and the head will hang. Now if the hands are to the mat, can you keep your hands at shoulder width distance so you're making that 90-degree angle, right? A nice strong architecture with elbows over wrists and hands in line with shoulders. Even if your hands are to blocks, you can still find an alignment slightly. If balance lets you walk them back. Create a nice soft neck, letting the head just hang. And strong legs with the feet rooting down. If the hands walked back, we'll slowly come into our halfway lift again. You could find those blocks if the hands jumped off the blocks for a moment. And then we're going back to the top of our mat, back the way we came. So my hands will start to walk over towards my right foot, coming back to that runner's lunge. And then I'll step forward into my fold. Rise up to stand, reach the arms high, and come to mountain pose. All right, we're gonna start with a sun salutation here. So same thing about the blocks and stepping back. If you wanna have them, or if you want hands to come to mat, you decide. From mountain pose, stand proudly. As you inhale, reach the arms high. As you exhale, fold in half. Come into your halfway lift, palms to shins. Strong legs, strong core, heart reaching forward. Now our upper body is already in our plank shape. So can you move the torso as little as possible, maybe bending the legs so the hands can come to your blocks? And my gaze and my head will stay forward as I step my legs back to plank. I'll strengthen up my legs, tap my knees down. As I inhale, reach my heart forward a little bit more, and then elbows bend back. Plenty of room for our ears. Shoulders aren't crowding up. Tops of toes press. We come into our back bend with really strong glutes and legs. And then as we exhale, we make our way back through table, tuck the toes and come into your dog. As you inhale, look forward, soften the legs, and take your feet to the top of your mat. Halfway lift, forward fold. Rise to stand, hips back over the ankles as we reach high, and return to mountain. All right, we're gonna take another bind. This time you won't need the strap. We're gonna do our eagle bind. So you guys can stay at the front of your mat. I'm just moving back a little bit so that you can see me. Take the arms nice and wide and go ahead and give yourself a hug so that the left arm is on top, right arm is under. You can keep this opposite hand to opposite shoulder or take the eagle bind where the right fingers wrap around the left forearm and reach up for the left palm. Strong in our mountain pose for a few breaths. And soften the knees and bow. Release the hands to the ground. Send the hips back and come up to stand again. Now we'll do that to the other side. Arms nice and wide. This time as you hug right arm on top. Opposite hand to opposite shoulder, or take the full bind where the left fingertips wrap around the right forearm to the right palm. Elbows lift and we stay strong for 3 more breaths. And then we soften the knees and bow. Release the hands to the mat, and this time step the right leg back to a runner's lunge. That back knee stays lifted and hands can come to blocks. Feet are pressing down, outer hips are hugging in. We're not letting the whole weight of the torso rest on that thigh. So the abdomen is pulling away from the left thigh. So you reach the heart forward, feel the shoulder blades come together on your back. And both hands inside the right leg, left leg. And we'll walk over to the right. Taking our prasarita on the other side, align your feet, either pigeon-toed or parallel with the short edges of the mat, and find your halfway lift. Knees are slightly bent, hips are sending back. And on your exhale, you can bow the spine slightly or a lot. You can keep your hands to your blocks. If you get low enough where the hands can come to the ground, you could do that. And see if you can find that 90-degree angle with wrists over elbows and wrists about as wide as shoulders. And the palms are pressing down here. So this is a prep for our headstand. I don't know if we'll do it this year, but we won't be able to do it if we don't work on it, and we're working on it. This is a progression. You're keeping your hands in a strong spot, and eventually your head will come to the ground, not taking too much weight of the pose, keeping the weight in the hands, and the legs will kick up. So you can say that you worked on your headstand progression today. All right, we'll return to that halfway lift variation, letting the hands walk out, come to blocks if you lost them, and returning to the top of the mat. The left toes face the top of the mat as we walk the hands there. And from our runner's lunge, we step forward into our bow. Come up to stand and find mountain pose. All right, we're gonna do one more sun salutation. Set up your blocks if you need them, whatever props you need. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Hands to blocks, move to your plank. Strong legs, tap the knees down. Inhale, reach the heart forward, lower. Strong leg sweep back bend. Reach the heart forward, shoulders away from the ears. And make your way back to dog. Okay, take the knees down. And we're going to set up for some seated poses. So find something to sit on that will work for you today. I like to use a folded blanket. You could use blocks, pillows, anything that works well. All right, and we're going to start with butterfly pose. And we really want to make sure that we're activating, working our external rotation and our glute strength. So the legs are really strong here, and you can tell that you're activating if you can see the bottom edges of your feet. Maybe you see that the bottoms of your feet, and you see that the pinky edge of your toes are kind of coming together and the toes are fanning out. That's a sign that you're really using your glute muscles and working into that external rotation. And we're just going to sit nice and tall with that for 10 breaths. Now we're going to do a little lean forward where we just flex at the hips, but keep the spine long. And you may not even be able to see that I'm leaning forward much. Keep that very strong lower body just as you've been doing. And release. You can soften the legs for a moment. And go ahead and extend the right leg out in front of you, a little bit of a diagonal, not too much. We want the torso to angle towards that extended leg. And we want to flex at the hips first and then maybe round the spine. If the back line is tight, the back of the knee doesn't feel great, you can prop it with a block. So before you bow, create that strong lower body. Hinge at the hips, keeping the chest nice and open. See how far you'll go. You can tent yourself with your hands and then round. Lower body is strong. Seat muscles are engaged. Core is working. And release. We'll swap out the legs. The left leg extends, the right leg comes in butterfly. Maybe you're propping the back of the left knee. I create strength in my lower body. I find flexion at the hips. I support myself, feel into my spine. Decide if rounding is right for you today. And press the ground away to come up. And we'll do a seated twist. We'll start with extending both legs out. I'll bend the right leg and the foot will come to the mat. It doesn't have to be super close to the body. Maybe it's a bit forward, that's okay. Now test out bringing that foot to the other side of your left leg. So it's kind of crossing over and we're opening up into that right side hip. If it feels okay on the knee, we can lean a little to the left and let that left knee bend as the foot comes to tuck back towards the right hip. Now the first thing we want to do is tent our hands beside us. And we'll take 5 breaths sitting up nice and tall. Chin lifted off the chest. Strengthen our legs, strengthen our core. Now we'll twist towards the top leg, the right leg. My right hand will creep behind me, and the left leg might reach over, or the left hand might reach over for the right leg, or the left arm could come up and over. And we want to twist here. But other than twisting, no other variations in the spine. So we don't want to be leaning to the left or leaning to the right. We don't want to be rounding forward or back bending. So think of a nice long spine running from your sitting bones to the crown of your head, and that spine is just twisted. Strong legs and core. And when you're ready, release on the next exhale, untwisting the torso, extending the legs out. Maybe just sitting here in staff pose with the feet flexed and the legs extended for a few breaths before we jump into the second side. When you're ready, the left leg bends. The foot might come to the other side of the right leg. And if the right knee allows, I can lean to the right as the right knee bends and the foot tucks by the left hip. 5 breaths sitting tall. Starting to come into the twist, the left arm can tent behind and the right arm can leverage the left leg somehow, either holding or bringing the arm up and over. And visualize your spine here. Notice if you're doing something other than twisting. And when you're ready, release. Extend the legs out. Find that staff pose one more time. Okay. We'll close class with a few postures on our back. Let's see, let's have a strap handy or something we can use as a strap and a block handy as we lay down. Have the block outside your left hip and bring the strap around your right foot. Extend it up so that the foot is flexed, just like our standing leg splits. Really activating and charging up. Keeping the knee soft. See how it feels if the left leg goes long. You could keep it bent if the left foot is hovering or if it doesn't feel great on the back. And then the strap in the left hand will guide the right leg across the body. I'll roll to my left side as my foot or my leg comes down on that prop outside of my left hip. Now imagine both legs are standing into something. Imagine your left foot is pushing into the ground, your right foot is pushing into a wall. And see how it feels to open your chest towards the ceiling. The right arm could reach up to the right and the gaze could follow. And then bend both knees. Let the foot come out of your strap as you roll back onto your back. And if you were using a block on the left side, you can move it over to the right. We'll strap the right foot, extending up. Foot is flexed, reaching through that heel and keeping the knee soft. The right leg can extend. The strap in the right hand will guide my left leg across my body. I roll onto my right side. My left leg comes down to the prop as I open up my chest towards the sky, and the gaze could follow the left hand. And again, imagine both feet are standing. The right leg is pushing and standing into the ground. Imagine the left leg is pushing into the wall. You could probably set this up at home in the corner of a room. You know, if I went to a corner, you could have each foot pressing into a different wall, and that'd be a cool experience. And then release the strap, bend the knees, and roll onto your back. And we'll find a comfortable spot to rest. Rest the body, rest the mind before we close class together. Start to bring a little bit of movement back into your body. You might bring the knees in towards your chest and take some rocks side to side or circles with the knees. Eventually we'll come up to seat, maybe rolling through fetal shape or rock and roll. And we'll sit up tall together. Notice the space you created in your body and your mind. And hands come to heart center, Anjali Mudra, with gratitude for all that we have. Together we breathe in and exhale out. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. If you have questions, please ask, and take care. Thank you.